The koan for today, if we ever get to it, will be number 7 from the Shibayama comments on the Mumonkan, and the title is Joshu Says, Wash Your Bowls. Before getting to the koan, there's something else that needs to be talked about, because it came up so frequently, brought up by so many people during the last 2 weeks, both in sesshin and out of sesshin. So, can we all look at this problem together? Open it up. Open up ourselves so that we can see within ourselves what is being talked about. At first glance you may think this does not apply to me, but it applies to all human beings, and you are one of them. This is how it was stated approximately by one person. Sometime in the past, I've done something terribly wrong. It's long ago, but it hasn't left me alone, hasn't given me peace. Is it possible that I can forgive myself? Or how can I forgive myself for this wrongdoing? This is one form of putting it. The form doesn't matter what words one uses. People may know this feeling of waking up in the morning with a feeling something is wrong, I've done something wrong. Not even wanting to face the day with this feeling of wrongdoing. Or it may hit one may quickly wake up to it during the day. A real deep gnawing feeling of guilt, one doesn't quite know about what, or one does remember about what. Or one may wake up to it during the night. Usually one does one of these things. Either one immediately represses the thing again. It has come up, but one just does not want to deal with it, face the pain of it. So one looks for escape, throws oneself into one's work or whatever particular activity is at hand. Or there are always drinks, smokes, drugs. Or one may search for an outside agency to grant this forgiveness, which one is unable to give oneself. Do repentance, confession, penance, and yet, for some reason or other, it always comes back. This memory, either this concrete memory of what one has done wrong, or this vague, dull feeling of wrongdoing, and the pain of it. Another avenue to, quote, deal with it is to try to keep other people along the straight path, to prevent other people from wrongdoing. One can't deal with it oneself, but one can try to impose something or other upon other people to prevent them from wrongdoing. or engage in punitive talk about others. Try to correct or condemn or judge in others what is so frighteningly present in oneself, and yet will not be faced or allowed to really surface. The other thing that happens is that thinking is continuously attracted to this thing, either the memory or this vague feeling of guilt, and continuously circulates around it. One thinks one's way into it and out of it and around it and back into it and out of it, and this constant buzzing of thoughts around this act one has committed in the past, be it vague or concretely there in the memory. And goes over it and over it and over it. It's a tremendous magnet. The magnet that any memory has, this magnetic power of attracting and emitting thoughts. Because what was done was not done completely. So trying to sort of complete this thing, there's this habit of thinking about it, which, instead of resolving anything, generates more discomfort, physical discomfort, more guilt, more pain, which in turn generates more thinking, attracts more thinking again. And so it goes on and on and on. This feeling of guilt, if one can just focus on that for a moment, what its ingredients are. We all know it. Since time immemorial, there's been feeling of guilt, of wrongdoing. And in that there is fear. Fear of retaliation of some kind, of retribution, punishment, fear of being found out. That other people may find out about this, and one loses face. This old Chinese expression of losing face, meaning the facade is in danger of breaking up. The facade of being a, quote, good person. The image one tries to project, which one has learned to do, which has been trained into one to do, is in the danger of breaking up and showing what one really is, what one has done. So in guilt, there's not just the feeling of sadness and the tragedy of the act, but there's fear of being punished or found out or having to face consequences, which are very vague in the mind. And guilt is one of the most dangerous feelings, because it is so exploitable. If oneself smarts under guilt and knows how willing one is to do penance or to do anything to win back favor or to make this thing undone, to do almost anything just to be rid of this feeling and rid of the fear of loss of love from others, loss of appreciation, respect, what have you. One knows this so well, how exploitable one is, and one also exploits others who feel guilty. Because one knows how easily a guilty person can be exploited. This is not all very deliberate. It comes very subliminal. So how can I forgive myself? Is it possible to forgive myself? What is forgiveness? We're going into the whole question later on, but what does one think or hope or expect forgiveness to be? It could not be an undoing what has been done, could it? What has been done has been done. Nothing can undo it. It's happened, it has its consequences, and it's the past. We right now, as we are the consequence of that, as we are. But what made us this way, the causes, they're finished, they're already in the past. So we're asking the impossible if we ask for this thing to become somehow or other undone. It's happened. And that's that. Can one see that? And that it is now a memory. The actual occurrence is finished. Even if it was unfinished business. So what is one asking when one asks forgiveness? To be relieved of the pain that the memory brings, or the sadness of the consequences one witnesses today, because everything we witness today is the consequence, the effect of the past. Does one want to be relieved of that sadness, of witnessing, seeing, feeling that sorrow that is there, created by ourselves? We have been created by the society, and we perpetuate the society and keep it going. So there's a real mutuality there. There's no separation. Does one see that? So is one asking to be relieved of feeling the pain and sorrow that is there? Whatever the causes may have been, it's there. Not just in one's personal life, it is all over the world. In all human beings. So what is one asking for? This particular person didn't look for an outside agency to grant that forgiveness. That was no longer an issue. There was no refuge in belief that there was such an outside agency who could grant forgiveness. One has tried that, and it hasn't worked, because the guilt remains, or else it is drowned in the belief and all that goes with that, and doubt goes with that too. Someone asks, can I forgive myself? I must forgive myself. That's all I've got left. What is this I? To forgive. What? Is there a separate I that is in the position and has the capacity to forgive? Whom? Itself? It's a very confusing thinking process, isn't it? This is what it is. The I itself, a product of thinking. The I itself, the whole accumulation of past memories. That's the I. And in our thoughts, we appeal to this I to forgive. Do you see the absurdity, the impossibility of it? Created by thinking? There's only this whole stream of memories and thinking and action that flows from it. The I being part of that stream of thinking. Oneself is all of that. Can you see that? Can that be seen? And seen in such a way that there's no I there judging or wondering, can I do it? That's more thinking. Or I probably can't do that. More thinking. Rooted in the past, images of oneself being incapable of doing something. More parts of this stream of thinking. Can it be seen without any judgment? No one sitting there. Because there's no judge except what one creates in one's thinking. There's only past memories and the pain of them. And the pain is right here. It's the only thing that's actual in the whole process. The pain, it can be felt. Can it be allowed to be felt? With such intensity of attention that thought has no place in that, because it just blurs and comes in between and distracts. Is it possible for the mind to be so undivided? There's just what there is, bathed in attention. The attention and what is not being two. It's not two. It's two when one thinks it's two. I shouldn't be this way. Then thought projects itself as an outside entity or a separate entity, able to do something about itself. What can thinking do about thinking? Thinking. More thinking, which is division and divisive. Inside and out. Whereas facing, without knowing what this thing really is, having no words and no refuge in words, the complete facing, which is no facing it in meaning I am looking at it as a separate entity. It's there. The pain, the discomfort, this dull feeling of guilt, of wrongdoing, without calling it this way any longer, it's there. Can it just be there completely? Nothing added or taken away from it. Just that. What is it? Having no explanation, being at a loss of what to do with it. Can this I be at a loss of knowing what to do? Including forgiving itself, which is only more of the same activity of the I, resulting only in more thinking. In such direct and immediate attention and awareness, there is no past. And there's no future, there's only what is there. Can there be no special thing, no thing? Just whatever comes up, that being no particular thing, nothing to make a thing out of, not knowing how to go about it and therefore coming to stillness. This koan is not unrelated to what we've been talking about and looking into. Please not to make a concept out of that the way we're using koans and teisho is how one maybe works on koans in doksan. This koan is used, if we can put it this way, to comment directly upon our lives. And not just to comment, but to see how we live, how human beings live. And if in this seeing there can be a freeing of it. Once a monk made a request of Joshu. I've just entered the monastery, he said. Please give me instruction, master. Joshu said, have you had your breakfast? Yes, I have, replied the monk. Then, said Joshu, wash your bowls. The monk had an insight. Mumon comments, Joshu opened his mouth and showed his gallbladder and revealed his heart and liver. If this monk, hearing it, failed to grasp the truth, he would mistake a bell for a pot. And the poem, because it is so very clear, it takes so long to come to realization. If you know at once that light is light, the meal has long been cooked. Once a monk made a request of Joshu, just entered the monastery. He said, please give me instruction. Have you had your breakfast? Yes. Then go wash your bowl. It's very simple, isn't it? Very, very simple and very easy to understand. On the level of the words and their meaning. Joshu was a very famous master. He didn't start teaching until he was over 80. And the monk is asking for instruction and is asked if he had his breakfast. not asked or being told anything about anything outside of himself. He's just asked a simple question. Have you eaten? How do we listen or take this question? Have you eaten? What is Joshua asking? Did food enter your mouth and stomach? Did food enter your body today, this morning? Or have you really eaten? What does it mean to really eat? For food to enter the mouth and starting the whole process of chewing, salivating, swallowing, that's an automatic thing. And we don't need to attend to it. We can do it totally mechanically while reading the newspaper. There may not be one spark of attention or awareness in that. Or as we usually are, except maybe in sesshin, we talk while eating. Does the eating go completely unnoticed during the conversation? Sort of background noise, chomp, chomp, chomp. We talk a great deal about attending to eating during sesshin, right before a meal, when it may not immediately escape again. We're chewing a bunch of sprouts or picking up a lump of gray cereal. Yeah. It's not even eating. It's no thing. And yet there's attention, awareness, but not the word, not the dutiful trying to be attentive. It's there. It's the chewing, it's the eating, the swallowing, the cereal and the sprouts, and everyone around one. No division. Is that humanly possible? Find out. Joshua asked, have you eaten? And the monk says, yes. Is he asking for more than what has already been explained? Maybe he's asking, has there been this eating and is it finished? Completely finished and done with. So that not a residue is left in the mind about how attentive one was in eating or how inattentive one was. That can come into awareness, and can it be left there without immediately judging one's inattention? These are residues that make for guilt feelings and all that we've mentioned before. What is this thing of doing something completely and then being done with it completely? monk says, yes, I've eaten. And Joshua doesn't terminate it there. He says, wash your bowl. Is there an image left of myself as one who has grasped this whole thing, has understood, has had an experience? And that experience is already a memory. And that's the residue, the trace, the dirty bowl. As we talk about dirty dishes, that's also an absurdity, because a minute ago it was still food, and now it's dirt. It doesn't make sense. But this washing the bowl, there's nothing moralistic about that, because that's just another image and another speck or a huge lump in the bowl. It's the functioning of attention and awareness which constantly wipes and erases, because it has no room and no use for memory, except where it is useful. We have to always point this out, although people don't seem to be confused about this, that memory is needed when one drives a car or rides a bike or follows a recipe, does cooking and so forth, or everything you do at work requires both memory, and at the same time can there be a freshness which is free from everything that one has experienced, so that the output is new. In washing dishes, and this is not anything of a lecture on washing dishes, but most dishes are not clean. There's grease left, there are little bits left, either because one has not had time to attend, or one has not taken the time, or one has used something between the dish and the hand, a cloth or a brush, which is all right. But to feel with the fingers afterwards, grease and specks are detected which the cloth hides. Makes the fingers sort of numb and insensitive. It's this immediate, direct being there with it. No division between the fingers and what is picked up. That's it says the monk had an insight. He saw something very clearly. Maybe an idea he had of himself. Probably an image too, being a famous one. He had two images facing each other. And he could respond so quickly and honestly. I don't know. He says, yes, I've had my breath eaten. But it was not finished. There's something still there. And upon hearing, wash your bowl, it was such free listening to. Only in such free listening can there be insight. If there had immediately been defensiveness, you're judging me. You talk about not judging, but you're judging me. Then you can't listen. This freedom to not defend, it seems almost impossible, doesn't it? Because the defense is there. Almost before somebody says something, one is already defensive. What's he going to say? What's he going to say now? And the ears flutter. There's some static in there already. So one is so afraid. One really is afraid. Afraid of what? Of not being seen as that what one wants to be seen like? One wants to be taken for this or that, and one is afraid that the other person doesn't see that. So one is still defending an image. Without image, there's no defense. One looks, and yes or no, it is so or it isn't so. Whoever is talking may have something or may shoot beside the target, but first I must listen, and then I must look, or the looking and the listening just being one. What can break up this instant slack of defensiveness? What can break up the image? Can one see that it's there of oneself, this face, as the Chinese put it, the face that we're always afraid of losing, this mask of perfection, which is this incredible effort to keep up, to keep mending and patching and projecting, and always the fear it may be seen through. If oneself starts with this work, there's not this fear that others may do it, because what one sees oneself is what is there in all human beings, because we all share one common heritage. We do. Can prove it in any scientific way you want. It's a fact. We all share one human heritage, not just human. Heritage of all living organisms is our own development. So where does one begin? Always where one is, with whatever comes up. Image, defensiveness, pain, fear, guilt. Be with it. Not you and it, but it's you. Do you see that? It says here in the commentary, Joshua opened his mouth, showed his gallbladder, revealed his heart and liver. This means no image, no defensiveness, nothing held back. Another, this famous cry was just this moo. He responded to. Somebody says, does the dog have the Buddha nature or not? He moo. So, there were no ideas in here of cleanliness or proper decor or none of that. The questions and responses came from nowhere. Which Mumon describes here, sewing, gallbladder, liver, heart, no facade, no face to lose. It's all there, what is. This human organism and mind. Or is it no mind that is responding? Certainly not the mind of attack and defense in the common sense. Because that's based on the idea and image of me and you as two separate entities, antagonistic to each other in one way or another. impossible potential conflict at all times. Is that possible to transcend in attention? And awareness in which there is no fear, to face fear. It says here, if this monk, hearing it, failed to grasp the truth, he would mistake a bell for a pot. Meaning that you put a beautiful bell on the stove and start cooking in it. Well, maybe if you have nothing else, why not? It may crack. Out at the camp, we're mistaking something for a bell, it seems to me. It looks like a helmet and it sounds like one. But it does give a signal. Mistaking the bell for the pot, meaning having ideas about what something is, and the ideas being so strong that you see your idea and you don't see what's right before you. It's just another way of saying that. And the poem, because it is so very clear, it takes longer to come to realization. That's Shibayama's translation. After Kapleau says it takes so long to come to realization. Shibayama says, if you know at once candlelight is fire, or you can say candlelight is candlelight, or light is light, or fire is fire, the meal has long been cooked. Does one know that fire is fire? Is it an idea, a belief, an assumption? Or is it clear that light is light? Does it need a belief or an assumption? You can see it. You have no ideas about who lit it. And there's already some confusion. Just see. It's there. The light is the seeing, and the seeing is the light. At that instant, Mumon says, the meal has long been cooked. Meaning, no preparation. This is quite contrary to our thinking and doing. We always prepare endlessly for the great event. It never seems to happen. And yet, if light is seen as light, in that there's no preparation. Because seeing doesn't come out of preparation. It's there or it isn't there. Why isn't it there? Is one judging oneself? Images cropping up? Or is it just a pure question? What is it? A pure question which denies all ideas and will not fall for them. They do crop up because this is the way our brain works. But as they crop up, they're denied, or one abstains from spinning them out further and further and further. If one doesn't abstain, one spins them further and further and further. And then eventually, maybe there will be a moment of waking up to this fact. And thinking is not seeing. A thought can only think. Thought is thinking. And that's not seeing.
So what is it? A grammar? Huh? Is this mind? Or no special question, just not knowing? With a mind that will not settle for anything. Because in this there's no settlement. It's like a river constantly washing the bowl clean. And moving on. Not as an escape, moving away, but moving on because this is life. We will end here for today.